the next part what I'm going to show you is hand sewing needles. Alright, now I have a small box here of hand sewing needles, and I also have them on a little like cushion, pin cushion like this, and I've got my hand sewing needles on there as well, the ones that I always like to use, because there's lots of different sizes and you will come across the hand sewing needle that you really like to use, okay, and you'll come across 2 or 3 that you would use all of the time, and they're the ones that I would put on a pin cushion together with your pins. Now this pin cushion I always have right next to the sewing machine, okay, because it's small and it's easy to put them in, it's easy to get them out when you're using the pins. Okay, now I have here a larger box with lots of pins in, okay, and that's usually positioned on the ironing board right next to the iron. Okay, so it's a lot easier to have it that way. It's a lot larger, so you don't want something really big and bulky next to the sewing machine, whereas the little pin cushion with all your pins in, that is easier to have by the sewing machine, and it just keeps your workspace more neater and easier for when you are positioning the fabric on the sewing machine and that sort of thing. Alright, so this is my box for my pins. Alright, now the second things are sewing machine oil. Now if you have a sewing machine, you would near enough 100% of the time you're going to get sewing machine oil with the sewing machine. Okay, but if you run out, it's best to go and get some separate sewing machine oil. Okay, and you can just get these in all haberdashery places. In fact, every single thing that I'm showing you now you can get in a haberdashery place quite easily, and it's all there, it's all available. Okay, so your sewing machine oil, very essential, because it keeps your sewing machine lubricated, running well, and it's you know, it's a lot better and it's a lot easier to work with the sewing machine when it's oiled. So you need to have your sewing machine oil. Alright, now this is not a real essential, but I just thought I would show you it. It's called fray check, and what this does is you put it on a buttonhole and it prevents the buttonhole from fraying. Okay, it's a kind of a sort of a glue that's transparent that goes onto the buttonhole when you're finished. Okay, so it is a good thing to have, but it's not a complete essential thing to have. Okay, but I have fray check, and again that's available in all haberdasheries. Okay, now again, very important, we have here which is called either the seam ripper or the unpicker, and what this does is it basically unpicks and at the same time cuts any fabric, any stitches that are within the fabric that you need to unpick. Alright, it's a lot easier. Now again, I have 2 of these. I have basically one which is on the ironing board and also one right next to the sewing machine, a lot like my little scissors as well. Okay, so I have 2 of these, okay, and it's called an unpicker. Okay, very, very, very easy and useful tool to use. I mean, you know, without an unpicker, because we all make mistakes, I make mistakes, you're constantly unpicking your the stitches that you put in the cloth, and if you make a mistake you have to unpick them, and that's where one of these comes in. It's great, rather than using scissors, which is a bit of a nightmare. So your unpicker is a really important part of your sewing equipment. Okay, so again, another thing we have here, tailor's chalk. Okay, now this here is used to be marked onto the fabric. If you have a place that you need to mark what you need to remember, or you need to mark where your notches are before you cut them, that's what you use tailor's chalk for. And also if you have a pattern and you want to draw around the pattern pieces, tailor's chalk is the ideal thing to use. Alright, now all of these equipment you will be seeing me using it throughout the course, and you'll see in greater detail what they're for. Okay, but that is your tailor's chalk. Alright, and again it's available in all haberdashery places, easy to get hold of. Alright, now again for hand stitching, I have a handful of threads that I keep with me all the time, I mean, if you were sewing in, say, a kind of a dusky pink, then obviously you would use the dusky pink thread, okay? But for basic hand stitching of, say, a white garment, you would have the white thread and the off-white thread, okay? And these are ideal to have for your hand stitching, okay? And if you have a darker fabric, I've got here a black and a very, very deep navy, okay? So I always have 4 threads with me all the time.